When I found out Pokemon Journeys would be going on a hiatus due to the ongoing coronavirus pandemic, I'll admit, it hurt realizing we wouldn't be joining Ash and Go on their adventures for a while. At the same time, it was a huge sigh of relief knowing that the production team behind the series would be much safer at home practicing social distancing. Nonetheless, I thought this hiatus would be the perfect opportunity to rank all the current Pokemon Journey episodes that we currently have so far, with 22 being the latest one. I'll first be giving a brief description of each episode alongside my personal opinion as to why I ranked it at the place it's at. And please, guys, before you destroy me in the comment section about some of these placements, remember, this list is ultimately my opinion. With that in mind, let's go. A literal 20-minute commercial for promoting Pokemon Go. Look, when I heard we were getting an episode dedicated to Go, going on a capture spree, the idea sounded great on paper. All these battles he was going to get into with Scorbunny should make one hell of an interesting episode, right?
Right? Wrong!
We get to meet Go's parents for the first time? Sign me up. Wait, what do you mean they're focusing the episode on Go helping a Cubone look for his bone in a park with the entire Soviet army helping? Seriously though, why couldn't they make Go's parents more interesting than having them be glorified Google employees with 2 minutes of screen time? For an episode trying to give us a closer look at Go's life before he met Ash, this episode sadly failed at that. Johto being revisited and Ho possibly appearing in the episode? No way they can mess this up. And they did. As much as I enjoy them reanimating Ash and Pikachu's first encounter with Ho, this episode suffered from terrible pacing and a mediocre character of the day. Grandpa believes Ho exists. Then he doesn't. Then he does again. Okay, he was kidding that time. Okay. They had everything to make this episode iconic, but instead gave us 2 minutes of the cast yelling out Ho's name because the plot demands it. No, seriously, go watch the episode. I kid you not. So much potential just to be a letdown, along with an infuriating ending. Ash and Go's first assignment as research fellows is to observe and find out why a horde of Ivysaurs are causing chaos in Vermilion City. Coming from a satisfying episode 2, I was excited to see how Ash and Go's dynamic would work out for the first time with a clear goal in mind. I'll admit, Cassandra Go was pretty enjoyable to watch, but most of this episode suffers from slow pacing. It's your basic companion needs to see Ash almost die protecting a Pokemon to truly see what kind of an amazing trainer he is trope. Predictable outcome. Also, Team Rocket appears for the first time and they have a gacha machine for some reason. Rejoice, Diamond and Pearl fans. No longer will you have to wait for the anime to revisit the Sinnoh region, as they have your long-awaited episode right here. As much as I enjoy the concept of a Piplup and Croagunk rivalry over a trainer's attention, it was sadly executed poorly, making this a pretty bland, unmemorable episode. It had its moments, but with the long absence of the Sinnoh region, this episode didn't do justice with the amount of time away from it. Unless you're a fan of character of the day, Velma losing her glasses every 5 seconds. As far as introduction episodes go for a new series of Pokemon, this one is by far the weakest of them all. Which is a huge letdown considering they had a 22-year original idea in telling what life was like for Pikachu before he met Ash. I really wanted to enjoy the episode, but I ultimately couldn't stop myself from checking the timer to see how much time was left remaining for the episode to be over. That's not to say it didn't have its shining moments, including some incredible shots that were beautifully animated and the music which did its job in showing more impact to certain character choices. We also get introduced to Go and Koharu, which honestly could have been saved for episode 2. They felt misplaced, which could have given more time for the episode to shine on Pikachu's origin story. This episode was all over the place, which is highly unfortunate to see. We finally get a Koharu focused episode, but it didn't feel like one. Instead, we have a Gengar terrorizing the Sakuragi laboratory residents, which we'll find out in a later episode why. And it's up to Ash and Go to stop said attacks. My question is, why couldn't they save this plot for another episode instead of poorly transitioning from Koharu's surprisingly interesting backstory to a B plot that could have done well as its own episode? I was all for learning more about Koharu as a character with the lovable Yamper by her side, but I guess they needed to build up Gengar's reappearance later down the line. I may not be a huge fan of Team Rocket focused episodes, but this one reminded me why some people praise him to be the best part about the anime. Who would have thought of Ditto's inability to transform into perfect replicas of other Pokemon due to its lack of confidence, sprinkled with Team Rocket's antics, build it up to make for such an entertaining story? I'm a sucker for evolution episodes, but this one felt like it wasn't needed. Regardless of what I think, I guess it was cool to see Scorbunny find his inner Messi in order to use a fire type move. Ending definitely had a nice plot twist though. Just as I'm a sucker for evolution episodes, capture ones are no different. And oh boy did this one blow up the internet with Dragonite even trending. Even though we got the cliche Ash helps Pokemon and in return they want to join his team trope, the fact that it was a Dragonite is what made this episode all the more satisfying. I mean, you got the duel no one thought would ever happen, blast off Team Rocket. What more could you want? Our first look at the Galar region in the anime begins with Ash and Go traveling there to witness the phenomenon known as Dynamaxing. Now let me start off by saying I didn't think I'd like this episode as much as I do now. For one, we get introduced to Go's eventual partner Scorbunny, whose personality is the star of the show, and I was always looking forward to him pissing the living shit out of Ash and Go. For an introduction to a region that many fans were clamoring to defeat in the anime, it did a fantastic job showcasing the life and atmosphere that is the Galar region. 20 episodes into the series and we're now getting the usual reaffirmation of dreams for Ash and Co. Usually these type of episodes don't sit well with me since it's mostly a recap of stuff we already know about, but surprisingly that wasn't the case for this one. Not only did we get some major plot twists at the end of the episode, but the gags were actually hilarious, which confirms that the series can be genuinely funny without trying too hard sometimes. This should have been the first episode of the series in my opinion. But regardless, it did a fantastic job in bringing our two protagonists together for the first time. And even though we didn't have Pikachu shock anyone's bike this time for the fateful meeting to happen, I'm definitely a fan of Ash and Go joyriding on a Lugia throughout the entire Kanto region. You know what? Who am I kidding? Seeing Koharu walk past Ash's electrified corpse was the highlight of the entire thing. What's up with Scorbunny focused episodes that make them so enjoyable to watch? Part 2 of the Galar region adventure, Ash and Go finally approach their destination for Dynamax research. And with that includes Scorbunny, who's seeking Go's attention to be captured. Now, let me start off by saying I wasn't expecting Pokemon Journeys to throw us emotional punches so early on in the series. I may or may have not had to rewind certain parts of the episode to make sure I read the subs correctly, because some of the dialogue from Go in this episode definitely caught me off guard. If that wasn't enough of a rewatch, the cinematography of some of the scenes truly did its job in showcasing the magnitude of certain situations the heroes were going through. Overall, this episode did its job in giving us a taste of future bonds between characters, which as a longtime Pokemon anime fan, I welcome. Yeah, I know I'm pretty biased if you guys haven't already noticed, but in my defense, it's the writer's fault for making Scorbunny, Robofoot episodes so enticing to watch. I mean, the whole episode focusing on the possibility of Robofoot leaving the group, it's definitely an attention grabber. Sadly, this is the last episode before the hiatus started, and it definitely did its job in making us look forward to future episodes once the pandemic is over. Also, Robofoot, already being known as Messi, is now a breakdancer. I'm telling you guys, this guy can do anything. Dynamax, Chubby, Pikachu battling Champion Leon. What more could you want? This episode delivered in so many ways, from giving us the usual Ash versus Champion of the region battle, to goals being set for our heroes to hype us even more for the future of the series. If there was ever a time to jump back into the Pokemon anime, I'd recommend this episode to watch first. Did I already mention Chubby Pikachu? Another capture episode means another phenomenal episode awaits us, right? With the amount of foreshadowing the writers have been giving us with Gengar, you might as well put a huge button over him that reads, I really wish I was captured right now. I can confidently say though, this episode did its job in making me yet again sympathize for a Pokemon because of its backstory, which in this case is actually heartbreaking. If the writer's job was to pull our heartstrings for Gengar, they definitely succeeded in doing just that. Where do I even begin with this one? Ash and Go travel to the Hoenn region to compete in the Battle Frontier out of all things. Looks like Ash's time away from battling was lived short, and this episode reminded me why I enjoy that aspect of him so much. With Go also participating, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't surprised, since his drive lies in capturing Pokemon. So when it was his turn to compete, I'm glad the writers gave us the outcome that will further make him grow as a character. Good job, writers. I'm pretty sure I speak for everyone when I say no one expected Lance to return to the anime. But here we are, bearing witness to probably the best Pokemon battle Journeys has to offer, against Leon, the Galar champion of all people as well. Describing why I enjoyed the battle would do it injustice, as I feel like every fan of the series should watch it, which will hopefully convince them to pick up the series if they dropped it long ago. What I will say though is if you want to find out why the Pokemon anime is still popular to this day, this episode will give you that answer. Do yourself a favor and go watch it. You guys saw this coming. It shouldn't come as a surprise that Rielo's capture episode is placed in my top 3. Even though the first half was slow for my liking, the second half was what carried it to be, if not one of my favorite capture episodes of all time. The foreshadowing between Ash and Rielo's Aura bond was well executed, showcasing us something we haven't seen Ash sense or use since the Diamond and Pearl series. Continuity at its finest, if you ask me. Not only that, but it was only after Riolu hatching from its egg did I realize that this wasn't just another Pokemon to be captured by Ash. This was the beginning of the story of Ash's ace, who will grow up to probably be the MVP in the Pokemon World Championships. The cinematic shots, the score in which showed Ash and Riolu to somewhat be synced, just gave me that Ash and Greninja vibes. To be an X and Y fan. I can't wait to watch these two girls as a duo to become the powerhouse that will probably give Ash the title to become a Pokemon Master. Okay, now I give you permission to act surprised with this episode being ranked this high. Let me explain. I came into this episode just like any other fan after reading the synopsis, ultimately having low expectations for it. Now, I know this doesn't apply for everyone since this was taking place in Unova, and I know the collective fanbase will take what they can get for any type of reintroduction to the region. I myself wasn't in the same boat as them. So you can see with Unova being the region and the uninteresting summary, I felt like this was just another episode I was going to force myself to watch, being a PokeTuber and all. Holy shit, was I wrong. Ash and Go travel to the Unova's Ruins of the Titan in hopes of finding a giant-sized Pokemon, which ends up being the behemoth Golruk. And my god, did they introduce him like he was some godlike sentient with a score, giving the viewers the power that he has. I'm serious. The music made me feel like I was watching a Game of Thrones episode. That's not even including the introduction to some of the most entertaining one-shot characters Pokemon has shown us in a while. To top it all off, the raid battle was so entrancing to watch, as you have all these Pokemon attacking it at once with little to no damage being felt by Golruk. The ending threw me off guard in a good way though, which cemented this as almost being my favorite episode of Pokemon Journeys so far. But that honor goes to Episode 18. Come on, you guys knew this was going to be my number 1 pick if you've been following me since my X and Y reactions. I'm all about stunning gym battles, with actual strategy being used in the mix. We have Ash and Go visiting the Vermilion Gym, a place we haven't seen in almost 2 decades, to battle Viscus, a temporary gym leader for Lieutenant Surge, who was absent from the gym due to him practicing with his iconic Raichu to get stronger. Regardless, we still see him reappear in a flashback with OG Ash Ketchum in Pokemon Journey's art style form. I love continuity in this show, and it's a relief they didn't forget about him, which I was somewhat worried about they would. Viscus is still an interesting gym leader in her own right, donning the same energy Lieutenant Surge had battling against Ash. The Battle Victor will ultimately rank up in Victor points for the Pokemon World Championships, so the stakes were high. And oh boy, did this battle not disappoint. There were so many moments in this battle that you can screenshot and they be eye candy to any battle fanatic such as myself. Pokemon battles are what got me into the series, and this one made me remember why I fell in love with it in the first place as a kid. Who knows, maybe another battle in the future will overtake this spot, and I wouldn't be surprised if it did. But for now, this is my favorite episode of the series so far. And with that, my friends, concludes my ranking list for the current 22 episodes we have so far for Pokemon Journeys. Do you guys agree with my list? Let me know in the comments down below why or why not. With no knowledge of when the series will return because of pandemic going on in the world, hopefully my video made your day a little bit less boring being stuck at home all day. With that in mind, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.